All right, and welcome to a very special live edition of the Jazziz Last Call. Super excited for this one. Dave Koz, legendary contemporary jazz saxophonist, is here to catch us up on everything in the land of Koz. I'm Brian Zimmerman. This is the Jazziz Last Call. All right. And as always, before we get into today's interview with Dave Koz, just wanted to let you know about a new album from ECM Records. This one is from the guitarist Wolfgang Muthspiel. He's in a trio with bassist Scott Colley and drummer Brian Blade. The new album is called Angular Blues. Wolfgang, kind of known for his impressionistic originals. On this one, he's getting into some great American songbook standards for the first time as a leader on ECM, as well as some rhythm changes, bebop type stuff. So if you're into Wolfgang, you want to hear a new direction, or for a new spin on bebop and standards, check out this new album by Wolfgang Muthspiel. It's available on ecmrecords.com. Wanted to also let you know about our latest issue. That would be the summer 2020 issue. This one is all about the age of fusion. Nice little cover story on Chick Corea in there. All of this web content is available on our website. The articles from this print issue are available as web articles on our website. You will need a digital subscription to read them. However, we're offering a special subscription rate right now for Jazziz Last Call viewers for just 99 cents per month for 3 months. You can unlock unlimited digital access to all of the web articles featured in this print issue, as well as previous print issues. Also, come fall, when we release our forthcoming print issue, you will be enrolled to receive a complimentary copy. So you get all of the digital articles featured in this issue, plus come fall, we enroll you to receive our fall 2020 issue, which is all about the art of the album, listening to albums, producing albums, collecting albums, album cover art. It's a really great issue. And if you sign up now, like I say, you receive the complimentary print issue. All right, my guest today is saxophonist Dave Koz, a musician who has racked up an impressive array of honors and achievements over the years. We're talking 9 Grammy noms, 11 #1 albums on Billboard's current contemporary jazz albums chart, numerous world tours, 13 sold-out Dave Koz and Friends at Sea cruises, performances for multiple U.S. presidents, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and appearances on multiple television shows. Not only is he a platinum-selling recording artist, but Koz is also known as a humanitarian, entrepreneur, radio host, and instrumental musical advocate. Let's not waste any more time. It is last call. Let us go one more round with the one and only Dave Koz.
Yes.
Hey, how about that?
The only reason for doing this show, Brian, drinking in the afternoon,
is to drink during the day.
So
yeah, I mean, that's right. It's nice to be chatting with you, Dave, but really, I just wanted to get into this Manhattan at 5:30. So, hey, as our viewers know, the first thing we like to do on the show is toast. It is the last call after all. So who are we celebrating? What are we celebrating? Why are we celebrating? What are we honoring with this glass here, Dave?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, because we're, I don't mean to be political about this, but we have some members of our establishment that don't acknowledge enough the people who we have lost to COVID-19 this year. And that's over 120,000 people in this country. There's many people all over the world. These are people that gave their lives when pretty much they didn't have to this year because of this pandemic. And those are people that are on my mind every day. So I would like to raise this bottle of Peroni to all of those wonderful, brave souls.
Cheers to them and amen to that, Dave. Very well said. Well, hey, man, another one of the first things I like to do is just check in with people. Quarantine is tough. It's hard being by ourselves. So how does the great Dave Koz get through it? What have you been up to? You've been binge watching, cooking the fancy recipes.
I've done both of those things, actually. Have you been spying on me, Brian?
A little bit. I am a fan.
I am not a cook. I've never really been a cook. I can barely get through like some eggs in the morning, but I have taken this opportunity to learn a little bit more because I'm home. Usually I'm traveling so much that I never get to really be in the kitchen. And I've always marveled over these people that can whip up these masterful things. And it just requires time. You got to get confident. And so I've taken this time to get a little bit more confident. I've got a couple skills up my sleeve now in the cooking department. And I have done my share of binge watching as well.
As we all have. No shame in that.
And continuing. that. And I've also tried, like most of the artists in this world, it's really nice, inspiring to see so many artists try and take this moment to find new, novel ways of connecting with their fans and their audiences. And I think as much as we might say we do it for the fans, I think probably it's more selfish, because it's when you take yourself out of the mix of what you've done for years and years and years. This is my 30th anniversary year of making records and traveling around. And all of a sudden, everything just comes to a grinding halt.
Yeah.
It's like you have to, there were some days where I was just like, who am I? What am I doing? And how can I be relevant in this new paradigm that we're all forced to deal with? So a lot of self-reflection and trying to figure out what this time is about and what we can do to get through it. And I think music has been a huge part of just making people comfortable in a very uncomfortable time. So I've been trying to do as much of that as possible.
It's so true. And, at first, I think we were all a little unused to this new world we were in, of virtual concerts and live streams and, musicians playing on their Facebook page. But after we gotten used to it, you're right, is a silver lining to this, is that people are still able to make music and connect through music. So I understand you've also been making a little bit of music in the process, and we may have something to look forward to down the line. Dave, is that true?
Well, I spent 8 weeks in total lockdown up at I have a tiny little place in a place called Sausalito, California, Northern California.
Yeah, sure.
Just across the Golden Gate Bridge from
San Francisco. Yeah.
And I spent 8 weeks up there during the lockdown. And then I came back to Los Angeles, where I live primarily, in mid-May, and putting the finishing touches on a new album. And this is, as I mentioned, it's kind of a 30th anniversary album, but it's all new material. And I have some dream come true collaborations on this one that I've been looking forward to doing for a very long time, that finally came through. And all the music was written, a lot of it was written in New York, while New York was kind of in that moment. That's what it really felt like. It was, I was there for like the first 10 days of March. And I went there with just, I'm going to write music.
Yeah.
And then I could feel while I was there, this thing happening. And I finally left. I think I left on the 15th. And then the world, stopped right after. Yeah. And it was very interesting from a musical and compositional standpoint, because all the music that was written for this album has, it doesn't sound in a particular way, but it has in the DNA is this experience that we've all been going through. And so if you listen to it with that lens, you can probably find a lot in there that in the sound that reflects a lot of this uncertainty. At the same time, a really hopeful message. The album is going to be called A New Day. And that was really reflective of a new day for me, because I've been doing this for a very long time, and I hope to be doing it for a lot more in the future. Who knows? But it also really is a reflection of this new time that we're still in right now. We're still in the thick of it, where they're talking about the COVID situation, the Black Lives Matter race relations, that we can all have that sense that something big is around the corner. And it's really beautiful thing to see, even though it's painful. And for so many, from myself, I mean, I just was, talk about self introspection and looking inside and seeing how you feel about things, and having your mind blown with things happening that you never thought about before. So it is a new day for all of us. Every single person is in the year 2020 is looking at a new paradigm shift, a complete paradigm shift. And that's what this project reflects.
No, it's beautiful. And I think this moment will kind of inspire new music in, uncountable ways moving forward. So super excited about that, Dave. Who are some of the collaborators you mentioned?
Well, I'll tell you a quick story that this is 100% true. Right after the pandemic happened, Sandy Shore, who runs smoothjazz.com, had asked artists to just do in their own way. This was before any of the online concerts. It was like the first week of the lockdown. Send me something I can put on my page just to entertain folks while we're trying to make sense out of this. So I had just written this song called Long Goodbyes. in New York. And it's this kind of haunting melody, and it's just solo sax. I put it on a video, and I sent it to her, and she posted it. And then about 2 weeks later, she sent me a video from Bob James, who posted also a song. So I'm looking, and I'm wondering why she's sending me this thing from Bob James. So he says, Bob, greeting the camera, says, hi, I hope everybody's doing okay. I came up with this. I wrote this song, and I want to play it for you. And he sat down at the piano, and he starts to play my song. I mean, exactly my song. And I'm sitting there, my jaws dropped. I'm like, how is he going to get out of this? This is plagiarism. There are rules against this, Mr. James. Yeah. So he finished this, and by the way, I just had solo sax. He had all the harmony. It was incredible.
Okay, Bob Jamesed it up, yeah.
And at the end, he stands up and he says, I'm sorry, I can't keep this up. That's not my song at all. That's Dave Kaza's song, who posted this exact song a couple of days ago right here. I fell in love with it, and I had to make it mine. I wish that I wrote it. And so that I called Bob up, and I said, Bob, would you please appear on this record? I think you have to now, since you tried to steal my song.
Wow.
And he did, and he sounds amazing on that piece of music. We also have David Sanborn, Michelle Indigio cello, who I don't know if you know about Michelle Indigio cello.
Oh, sure. Yeah, bassist, songwriter. Yeah, brilliant.
She is one of my huge heroes, and she played bass on a song. It's the only cover on the song called "Yesterday," the Beatles' "Yesterday."
Oh, wow!
And it is very, very hip. Cool. And let's see, who else do we have? Jeff Lorber, Paul Jackson Jr. We've got Darren Ron, who produced a couple of songs. Fabulous young producer. So it's
star-studded, as they
say. It's a good one. It's
good.
I'm excited.
And it's coming out when?
It'll be coming out in October. The record will come out in October.
Mark your calendars, everyone.
Tracks, starting in August. And it will come out to the week, Brian, 30 years after my very first album dropped. It was October 8th of 1990 when my first album came out. And here it will be, I think it's going to be October 10th, 2020.
Wow, very cool. And we could go back there. I just want to tell you that Bob James story was so funny. Reminds me of something, not to throw my mom under the bus, that she did for a Passover dinner one time. Pretended that she cooked this wonderful turkey. It was from honey baked ham, and she almost made it to the end of the dinner before the big reveal.
My mom did that too.
Oh, there you go. Another thing we have in common. Actually, we do have one big thing in common, which is we've talked about this before, our love for 1970s era rock horn bands and rock horn sections. Chicago, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Earth, Wind, and Fire. That was kind of the gateway drug to jazz for you, wasn't it?
You forgot one very important one. Come on.
What's that? What did I say? Chicago?
Bay Area, Oakland.
Oh, Tower of Power, baby.
Thank you.
Tower of Power.
How could you, Brian?
What is hip? I don't know. It slipped my mind. I was just listening to them the other day because my dad is a huge fan. But yeah, this was for a lot of jazz people, the gateway drug into jazz. Was that the case for you?
Yeah, I mean, that was the first album I ever bought. Was Tower of Power, Back to Oakland, 1970,
nice.
Probably 1975 or 1976. And I heard that band. First of all, everything in that band is like all the pieces, right? Just like everything was blended together. And then you would have these amazing solos by Lenny Pickett, who, if it was a 16-bar sax solo in the middle of a song, he was, going crazy. So there's a lot of jazzy elements, but it was still packaged in a way that really just made you move. And you couldn't help but marvel at the precision of that band, the musicality of that band. Every single person in that band, especially during that era, I mean, they're still sounding amazing. They made a 50th anniversary album last year, I think it was, that killed me. I mean, it was like they haven't lost anything.
Right.
So Emilio and the guys in that band, Doc, the funky doctor, that was definitely my favorite. And of course, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I have Ralph Johnson, one of the members of Earth, Wind, and Fire. He's a good friend of mine, and I sent him a song on this album that Brian McKnight sang. He's another guest that I forgot to tell you. So Brian McKnight sang this song called "Summertime in New York," and I sent it to Ralph, and he said, you have to have the Earth, Wind, and Fire clave on this song. I said, I did not know that I had that, but do you know anybody that could put the Earth, Wind, and Fire clave on it? And he said, I do. why don't you send me the track? So we've got a little bit of that earth, wind and fire fairy dust on that track.
That tink, tink, tink. Oh, I love it. I love it. And hey, let me pause real quickly just to remind people watching. We love seeing the comments you're sending in. Tell us where you're watching from. Say hello to Dave. It's awesome. And also, I don't have to be the only one asking questions. Submit your questions. And if we have time, we'll get to them on air. Questions for Dave. So yeah, Dave, and that is kind of the inspiration behind your Summer Horns project, just kind of channeling the essence of those bands. Was that the kind of section you were in when you joined Bobby Caldwell's tour? Because that was kind of your first break, right?
Yeah, I had just graduated from college, and you being a nice Jewish boy, you know that we have Jewish parents.
Yep.
And on the day that I graduated college, my parents at the graduation, I had nothing lined up. I mean, zero prospects of anything.
Yeah.
And they said, no. What are you going to do?
Doctor or lawyer? Which one?
So I said to my father, I said, I'm going to take 6 months and try and make it happen with music. And if it doesn't happen after 6 months, I'll go get a job somewhere.
Okay.
And 2 weeks after, I got a call from Bobby Caldwell, who was putting a new band together, and asked me to audition, and I did. And I got that gig, and that's what sort of was the first thing in a long series of little breaks, or I should say big breaks, because after Bobby, I met Jeff Lorber, and Jeff Lorber was the first person that said you should make your own records, and I never thought about it from there. But Bobby was a very important person, and still is a very important person in my life, because I think he was the first to recognize something that existed in me that I didn't know existed. I'll tell you one really quick story if we have time. It was on our first gig. We had done a couple weeks of rehearsals. This was my first coming out gig, right? It was at a place called At My Place in Santa Monica. The place was packed. It was a weekend. Every show sold out. It was a who's who, because this was Bobby's comeback, after a long absence. And so it's a double show night. We get to the end of the first show, and Bobby, we're walking off stage, and Bobby, I could tell he was mad, and he said, I got to talk to you, Dave. And I was like, oh, shit, I'm going to get fired.
Yeah.
On my first gig. I'm going to get fired before the second show. And he's really angry, and he said, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? I was like, I was just playing the sax solo. Every song had a sax solo in the middle. And he said, don't you see, I'm moving out from the front so that to give you space to take over when I stop singing and it's the time for the sax solo, move up there. And you're staying in your place. What are you doing? I've been trying to tell you to come up there. And I'm like, I'm so shy.
Yeah.
At that time, I didn't want to overstep my bounds. That was a bad move for him to say that, because the second show, I was pushing him out of the way.
Right at the spotlight, through the crowd. Yeah, well, that's cool, man. Coming out of the section and kind of stating your own voice, man. And that was
the second show, Brian. He said, let's dial it back a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we do away with the fireworks when you work away from the front of the stage. That's very cool. Yeah, and it was from there to your first recording, the 30th anniversary of which is fast approaching. This was in 1990, right? And it was Bruce Lundvall, who would go on to revive, or I guess had already revived, Blue Note Records, essentially, which was dormant during a lot of the 70s and 80s. Right. It was under him that you produced this record, right?
He signed me.
Yeah.
In the late 80s, he took a chance on me, and he signed me to Capitol Records. Yeah. So he was overseeing Blue Note, and he also had a label called Manhattan.
Right.
But he chose to sign me, and this was really this made a big difference in the early days, because instead of a jazz label, he basically signed me to the pop label. Now, this was after Kenny G had massive success on Duotone, sold millions of records. So I think every major record company was looking for their Kenny G, if you will. Mm-hmm. And say what you want about Kenny, he's a good friend of mine. I think he changed the game. He absolutely,
that's what I say about Kenny.
Changed the game for instrumental music, and gave people like me an opportunity to have a career, like a real career. And so the Capitol Records people really, because of Bruce and Bruce's stature within the organization, they took it very seriously and treated me like a pop artist. And that first record, it did pretty darn well. But it was the second record that went gold, and they just really pushed the what out of it. So, but Bruce was did you ever meet Bruce?
I did not have the pleasure to meet Bruce. No.
That was
But
like
I've heard the stories.
the true gentleman of the music business. I mean, he was such a wonderful human being, and whether he was talking to the guy who was the security guard at the bottom floor of the building, or Miles Davis, he was the same person. He was a fan of yours,
Yeah.
no matter what you did, and was a guy that was going to encourage you along the way and not put his stamp on it, you know.
Right.
That everything had that same kind of feeling. You know, he would allow artists to be artists. And so when you think about the luck of the draw for me, who I got a chance to be signed to, and the subsequent career that I've been able to have, it's always been, I spent 20 years on Capitol after 7 presidents, and then finally switched over to Concord Records. And then that was at the time of Norman Lear and Hal Gaba and John Burke and Glenn Barros. These are also wonderful, encouraging, artist-centric people. So I've had a really nice time being an artist in my life.
Totally. Was there at all a sense of nervousness, or is it as nerve-wracking as it seems to us to put out a debut album like that on a major label?
I think that the much harder album is the second album.
Oh, yeah? Oh.
Yeah, because especially if you've had some success on your first album.
Yeah.
Because I remember having this feeling of like, with no expectations, nobody's ever heard of me before. I'm just a saxophone player. What can I do with this? I'm just going to do the best that I can, and we'll put it out there, and we'll
How wrong can this possibly go?
And, you know, yeah, if it doesn't work, well,
yeah,
I'll do something else. You know, I was not committed to being an artist. I just thought at the beginning, I thought, well, let's just try it and see how it happens. And when we had a couple of nice big hits on that album, and then the expectation is there, like, oh, I did it this one time, but I wasn't really thinking about it. So now you're starting to think about it, and you're trying really hard to parlay the early success into further success. And that's when I think a lot of artists get a little crazy in the head. Certainly I did. And I think we all still do. I've never met an artist. You've talked to a lot of artists in your life. I've never met one who doesn't have those feelings of, you know, can I do this? Do I have something to say? Does anybody want to hear what I have to say? These are the insecurities that come with being
a creative person, you know, writers, artists, musicians. Yeah. That's the big secret. You never get over that insecurity. You know, you just get used to encountering it. Very cool, man. Yeah, embracing it. Totally. So many albums later, you know, so many cool new ventures later, you know, because we mentioned, in addition to all this music, you've started some amazing companies. You've got the Dave Cause and Friends Jazz Cruise. And I understand you have a little bit of an update on that as well.
Yeah, we had to cancel our cruise. Our cruise was was slated to be last month in Amsterdam. It was called Amsterdam and the British Isles. And we had 2 full ship charters, 2 back-to-back weeks that were all sold out and ready to go, and a lot of very excited music fans. And these are very special weeks. It's hard to put into words the experience of being on a cruise. We have one, but there are many music-themed cruises. Pretty much any kind of music you can think up, there's a cruise that matches that. Yeah. Sadly, because of COVID, we had to cancel, and that was just a very tough experience all the way around. Just very sad and very tough, and still we're not quite done with it. We had to refund people's money, obviously, and take care of our guests, and but we made it through, and I'm very hopeful. Everything is crossed on my body right now that we will be able to do our 2021 cruise. We have 3 sold out ships, starting in Barcelona and going to Barcelona, Spain. And it's we stop in Morocco, we stop in Ibiza, and we finally end up in Lisbon, Portugal. And so these are like fantasy trips, like you're surrounded by your favorite musicians, but you're also going to these places, these bucket list destinations that, I mean, that's the target, is that we're seeing the world together through music. And one of the things that I love about our cruises, perhaps the most important to me personally, is that they're like a microcosm of the world. When you get on the ship, the only connection you have with your fellow guests is that you're there for the same reason. You love the music. But we have black and white and Asian and Latino and young and old and gay and straight and Republican and Democrat. And it is a melting pot. and
Yeah.
everybody for 1 week gets along. Everybody's supportive of each other, nurtures each other, respects each other. It's a palpable feeling, and it builds upon itself day after day. And so anybody who's been on one of our cruises, we know that it's possible for people to get along.
Totally.
Music, the power of music is the thing that brings people together.
That's right. The foundation of that little microcosm is a love for the arts and for music. And so it'd be nice if we saw a little bit more of that, in the world at large. Dave, if you can't cruise and listen to your music, the next best thing, I think, may be to sip some wine and listen to your music. And you made that easier than ever with Cause Wine. You like that little segue?
This is like a paid programming or something.
So you mean my check isn't in the mail, Dave?
Oh, yeah. Get you that check. Yeah. The wine venture was a labor of love because, first of all, I love to drink wine. I don't know how to make wine, but I love to drink wine, and I'm a fan. And a friend of mine, my little brother, actually, who's a very smart, savvy businessman, said, you should work because your brand and wine should go together. Wineries should make a Cause Wine. And I said, well, if we can figure out a way to make it for charity, I'm in. And so this was probably over 10 years ago now. We decided to make our first bottles of wine, and all the proceeds will go to the Starlight Children's Foundation, which is my pet charity, my family's pet charity. And that kind of built upon itself and has now been going for over 10 years. And Whole Foods became our partner in the wine, so you can get it at Whole Foods. We used to be able to have it online. We're not able to do that right now because we ran out of stock, and we're amidst right now, we have a COVID issue with the wine because we lost a bunch of months for this year, but we'll revisit it for next year. And together with a variety of other programs that we run, some on our cruise, we have an incredibly generous network of fans who donate to Starlight every year. And through all these different mechanisms, we have raised well over $1 million for Starlight to help their cause continue. And Starlight, in case some of your viewers don't know, they help kids. This is a charity that's designed to help kids that are in hospitals for long periods of time and their families. So it's a very uncomfortable, bad situation for these kids. Starlight comes in through their various programs and makes it a little bit more palatable for the kids and their families.
Well, that's beautiful. Beautiful, Dave. We are just at the tail end of this last call, about to shut down the bar, but I did see some questions coming in from social media. One about your web series, the Riding in Cars. There it is, Driving with Dave, which has been awesome. It's a mix between carpool, karaoke, and comedians and getting cars, but all about jazz, and Dave is the host. Those are all available on YouTube, right, Dave?
Yep. You can see them on YouTube.
Any plans to do any more?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a fun thing. All of those were recorded during our cruise rehearsals, and we were slated to do a bunch more this year. Obviously, we never got to our rehearsal time, but that would be like if Gerald Albright was coming in for his rehearsal. He's an artist on our cruise. After his rehearsal, I said, Gerald, I got to talk to you for a second, and let me just take you for a quick drive. And so he'd get into the front seat, and we would go for a little walk or a little drive, and I would interview him. And these became really fun things that we would show on our cruise. And then we thought, well, let's see if people would be interested in seeing them that weren't on the cruise, and they developed a little life of their own. And so we'll continue. And we have a couple of other web series in development right now. But I like doing that kind of stuff. I really, really enjoy, like you're a great interviewer. You're someone who's naturally curious about artists and their process. And I am too. These are not only some of my best friends, but these are people that I am a huge fan of, and I want to be able to share their greatness with people on a different level. It's not so. I think an artist asking another artist questions is has a different feeling, and he gets a little bit into the weeds a little bit more than someone who's just reading from a bio. You're not that way. You really understand, and you're a musician, so you get it. You understand the musicians' makeup in our heads, our crazy, weird,
I
dysfunctional.
get it a little bit. The only difference is nobody wants to hear me play. That is for damn sure. But Dave, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. I know the world is a crazy place right now, and we appreciate you taking some time to chat with us and drink with us here on The Last Call. Man, this has been great. If people want to follow along, all things Dave updates, what's the best place for them to do that? My
website is davecause.com, and on Facebook and Twitter at Dave Cause Music. And if you're Instagram, it's my full legal name, David Stephen Cause with a PH. Why am I pairing Stephen with a PH? I have no idea. It makes things very complicated now in my life, but that's it.
I like it. My dad is a Stephen with a PH. Another thing we have in common.
There you go. I love it.
Dave, man, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Man. Always a great pleasure talking with you, and thank you. And thank you to all the fans who have joined today. It's nice to see all your comments, and great to talk with you as always, Brian. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Dave.
Cheers.
So long. Bye. All right. Wow. Thank you to the great Dave Cause for stopping by The Last Call to chat with us. Visit his website, check out all the albums. Keep the jazz cruise in mind for next year or the year after or the year after. Drink the wine. It's awesome. Dave is a great guy. And really so appreciative that he could stop by for The Last Call. If you like what you saw, please feel free to follow us on Facebook, like us on YouTube, or maybe that's the other way around. Whatever the case, stay tuned because we're bringing shows to you every weekday, and they've been a lot of fun so far. Again, we've got the 99-cent trial subscription offer going on right now. You can watch these interviews. You can read our exclusive articles, and come fall, you receive a print issue of your very own. That's it for The Last Call. I'm going to close down the bar. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I'm Brian Zimmerman. Thanks for watching, everybody. So long.